What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Press Coverage, where we help gain an edge in fantasy football. I'm your host, as always, Wyatt Bertolone. There have been a lot of storylines this offseason that have some big impacts on Dynasty. So today, I've got Jim Coventry with me from RotoWire to talk about them. Jim, how are you?
Oh, man, it's always exciting to talk with my friends at Player Profiler. This is great, man. Except for draft is coming. We're excited. We're going to have a good time tonight.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get right into it. This one's a fun one. Puka Nacua has had quite the offseason, right? There's the bite mark allegations. There's some anti-Semitic quotes that have been claimed coming from him. He's in rehab right now, as far as we know. I thought what's also interesting was we've heard some rumors about the Rams being interested in adding to their wide receiver room and a possible high-profile one. They've been linked to possibly trading for A.J. Brown. Those reports came out. You see a lot of mock drafts showing them mocking a wide receiver. It's very interesting stuff going on there with the Rams. I kind of like my little theory on wide receiver for them might be they're looking to flip the script on the NFL in general after the 12, 13 personnel. They're maybe going back to 11, try and flip it on. But it's all just adding to this. How are you feeling?
So great setup, great topic. And the NFL is a constant chess game. And McVay figured out the next iteration of the chess game last year. The three tight ends, that's not going away. Base defense in the NFL for 2 years, two linebackers on the field, and they're lighter than ever. They're built to defend the pass. And I've been on this train for 2 years. McVay leveraged that. By putting three tight ends on the field, the defense is always in conflict. Because now, if you go super light, we're just going to run the ball because we've got up to 8 blockers. And we're going to just ram it down your throats. And the run game was great. But if the defense decides we're going to drop everybody back and we're going to worry about Nacua and Adams, well, guess what's going to happen then? Well, then they drop everybody back. There's underneath stuff too. So you don't just have to run. You also could throw to those tight ends. And then Nacua is always blocking, which is perfect because that opens him up. McVay's rolling with this. And this is poker season, Wyatt. This is huge poker season. There is bluffing left and right. The only way the Rams go for a receiver early is if they are worried that Devontae Adams has 2 years of hamstring injuries, 34. If they're worried about that, this offense works best. And it was a different offense in 2021 when they won the Super Bowl, but they had an X receiver in Beckham. He didn't have to block. When they brought in Adams, I said, he ain't blocking. And he didn't block, but everybody else blocks. So if they're worried about that, because this offense works best in any iteration, if they got a dominant X receiver, that's the only way to take one early. I don't think that guy's in this draft, Wyatt.
Very interesting. Now, let's talk about specifically Puka Nacua now. Dynasty value. Did this change anything for you? Did it open up a buying window? Was it a selling window? What was it for you?
I think he's maybe a bit immature, and I think he did some foolish things. And I think that he is going to figure these things out fast. I do. I don't perceive him as a troublemaker. I just think he did. Look, dudes don't, mature until about 25. And how do I know that?
If that.
Car insurance rates teach us that.
Yeah, right.
Actuarial rates. Men get in fewer stupid decision car situations when they're 25. That's why car insurance drops. Nacua, I don't have his age in front of me, but he's right around there.
Yeah.
And so I think he just did what a lot of guys do, which is be dumb. I think he'll get past this. So no change on his dynasty value. None.
Yeah, I think at a minimum you could say he's immature, as you're saying, and he's made some really bad decisions, right? For fantasy, really good players tend to get more of a slap on the wrist when it comes to any of this. If NFL's making money, teams are making money. Those players tend to find a way to stay on the field. So I don't really think it's going to affect him in any way when it comes to fantasy. So in that case, I would say I wasn't dropping him anywhere in my dynasty rankings.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Things are the same.
He's too good.
Yeah, he's too good. All right.
And what's interesting, Wyatt, the bigger question, and I know this is a dynasty focused question, but look, we didn't see Puka Nacua coming. 5 or 6 people saw him coming, but they weren't saying this guy's going to be the crushing football for years. They thought he might be okay as a late flyer. But the question comes, Cooper Kupp. What would Cooper Kupp have been if no Sean McVay? Because I still think Kupp would have been a nice NFL player. I think Puka Nacua may not have had a starting job on 31 teams. But McVay knows exactly how to use this archetype of player, a blocker who can run choice routes. And then, of course, having a Matthew Stafford in the mix certainly helps because he reads it the same. I'm not saying Nacua is not super talented. I'm not saying Cooper Kupp's not super talented. But Sean McVay, if he drafts somebody, take note.
Yeah, it's true too. Like you say about Puka Nacua, when he came in the NFL, that first season, it was a lot of the those like choice routes, get the ball in his hands, that kind of stuff. He's definitely grown since then. We've seen a lot of his growth, especially along the sideline, making tough catches like that. He's really improved his game. But to your point, like Sean McVay and the Rams are able to pick these players out, right, and foster them in their system.
Yeah,
all right,
exactly.
Our next player, another wide receiver, also an interesting offseason, is Rashee Rice. So he served a 6-game suspension to start 2025, stemming from his March 2024 hit and run incident. He's also on probation for 5 years. Then he was under investigation for punching a photographer in May 2024. No arrest was made. The victim declined to press charges. Then this offseason, his former partner made an allegation of domestic abuse. The NFL announced there would be no discipline after not finding enough evidence. They looked into it. They said there was nothing. They're not pressing anything on him. Another player who, at a minimum, you could say, is immature and is making some really bad decisions. This one's a little bit different, though, that he is on probation currently and could easily find himself in a situation where he's not playing on Sundays anymore. Is Rashee Rice worth the risk?
This one is different because the legal trouble that Rashee Rice had a couple of years ago, that was serious.
Yeah.
And my expectation and hope is that Puka Nacua learns from something that was bad, but it wasn't Rashee Rice level, like with the car bad. And that worries me that stuff is going on after that because that NFL players, have a short career. And at some point, it's a business decision growing up. And Rashee Rice maybe hasn't made that connection. What will it take for that to happen? And now he's off on this again. Nothing happened. So now, are you Teflon? Is everything going to slide off of you? 6-game suspension was a 6-game suspension, but he came right back. I'm worried about Rashee Rice. The talent, no. The way he operates in the short area and gets the yards after the catch, not worried. But, man, it's a couple of strikes right now that I'm very concerned about him. And if I could get an offer that I thought would maybe even take 90% of value, I think that'd be worth it.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, his value's dropped a little bit from where he was, but it hasn't dropped that far. He's still like a mid wide receiver 2 in Dynasty, looking across Dynasty marketplaces. I'd say that, his role on the team is probably pretty safe because whenever he's been out there and healthy, he's done very well for them. I will say that, I think that role, not necessarily replaceable because Rashee Rice has been very good in that role, but it's not like he's not doing anything on his own per se within the offense. He's not making those plays open for Patrick Mahomes. They are designed for him. Like if the Chiefs found their way to a wide receiver who was a dominant outside wide receiver who creates a bunch of separation, all those things, I would think that they would take away from Rashee Rice. So I'm a little bit worried about having him on my Dynasty teams. I'll just say I don't have any Rashee Rice on my Dynasty teams currently. I like it that way because I look at these Dynasty marketplace, Devonta Smith is behind him. I would just rather have Devonta Smith right now. T. Higgins even with the Bengals, I think that's a conversation. Jalen Waddle just got to Denver. If you can trade down from Rashee Rice to Jalen Waddle and pick up a pick, these are some interesting things that seem to be available based on the marketplace. What do you think?
Yeah, the Waddle one, if I could make that deal, I would make it quickly because Jalen Waddle, look, it's been a couple frustrating seasons. It really is not his
to
fault.
say the least.
Right? And at some point, and I've been saying this for years about Tua on that offense. Tua's got a pop gun for an arm. Can he throw it 60 yards? Sure. So can I. But the ball's going to be a big lollipop that gets down the field. And we've seen it. And he cannot drive the ball. So defenses have no respect for him. And so defenses were saying, okay, if you can get a long pass, we'll kind of give it to you. But defenses were just putting bodies up close. So Waddle had no chance to get yards after the catch. It didn't even matter. And Waddle gets a pass for this, in my opinion. I don't think it's been his fault at all. And Mike McDaniel, the poor guy, kept coming up with all these ideas on ways to work around his quarterback. And eventually the ideas just ran out. because once everybody in the league knows you don't have an arm on your quarterback, it's done. You don't have to defend the perimeter. You don't have to defend deep. Oh, let's clog the middle. So back to the trade. Yeah, with Jalen Waddle heading over to play for Coach Payton, that's a game changer. Completely different player than Michael Thomas, but the concept, quick slants, getting into space, it's going to be a different usage. But we've seen Michael Thomas like a 175 target season. Cortland Sutton's a great player. He's a boundary X, perimeter player, downfield. We already saw his role shrink last year. There's a 5-week window where they did the Troy Franklin experiment. Franklin was getting 9 to 10 targets a game. Peyton already wanted to get out of that, but Franklin wasn't his guy. And then Pat Bryant started getting healthy and learning things about week 10-ish, 11-ish, and he had some run until he got hurt. I think this is a vision of Peyton's, and Waddle is the one. If you can make that flip, I really think Sean Payton has plans for Jalen Waddle. And look, Bo Nix, very good in the short area of the field. That's where he's good. So I like it.
Yeah, I'm with you totally. It seems like Sean Payton has been like, throwing a bunch of darts trying to find what he wants at wide receiver, and was finding like, you know what, who's the best free agent or player I can trade for? Who, and they found one in Waddle. I think that's what's going on there. So yeah, there are trades available to get out of the Rashee Rice business if you'd like to. All right, we are going to take a quick moment to hear about the Dynasty Deluxe package, and when we come back, we've got more players to talk about.
What does Player Profiler do best? Dynasty. Do we have the best Dynasty rankings there are? They have tight end premium. Super flex. But also win now mode versus rebuild mode. The most sophisticated best rankings using Player Profiler data that exist in the world are available on playerprofiler.com. Big surprise! That's right. There's a trade analyzer to know, should I make this trade or not? And then there's a trade finder. There's Dynasty League Sync. There's an ADP tracker. All the tools Dynasty League players need. So get it now. It's $45, not per month, per year. So let's go start building super teams.
Back here on Press Coverage with Jim. Coverage talking about some Dynasty storylines. If you have not liked and subscribed yet, please do so. If you're listening to us on your favorite streaming platform, rate us 5 stars. Leave us comments everywhere. Jim, tell people what you've been up to at RotoWire before we get into our next topic.
Oh, my goodness. I talked to you earlier, and I always have hundreds of pages of notes for a season. And AI has been a revelation in that a lot of the grunt work I do, a lot of just combing stats. AI could comb stats for me. Now I can think. I have more. It was like always, I had time to think, but I never could get as far as I wanted with those stats. I have more time to dissect NFL schemes, defenses, coaching changes, and how everything interrelates. Just having some grunt work done. It's like having a personal assistant. It's like, all right, I need these stats run. I need you to look for A, B, C, and D, and it's done. So I am very excited about this season because I have had more time to think on a deep, deep level about how these offenses and players are going to work. And it's just a real exciting time. So notes, yeah, it's still in the same range, but they're different. These are maybe I'd be able to create my most intuitive notes in my career doing this. So it's real exciting. So anyway, you'll catch me on social media, Jim Coventry NFL, work at RotoWire, but it's going to be, I really feel like the best season ever for a lot of us.
Yeah, love to hear it. All right, Jim, let's talk about the Dolphins. So Jim Hafley's in his new head coach. Along with him comes Malik Willis as Tua Tagovailoa is released. As we said, Jalen Waddle traded to the Broncos. They've got 2 first-round picks now in this draft. But what is this offense going to be? And do we care? Are we interested? Jim, how are you feeling about this team?
It's problematic because basically Malik Willis, and look, he had some really nice NFL performances for the Packers. But make no mistake, in his first outings, Malik Willis was hidden. That was Matt LaFleur hid him. And then in that Baltimore game, and everybody saw that Baltimore game, that Saturday night game, might have been Christmas week. I think it was week 17. And everybody saw that game. And like, wow, Malik Willis got it done. All Baltimore did from the tape when Willis had started, they simply said, oh, they're hiding him. So they just moved people up. And then all of a sudden, LaFleur realized and said, all right, Malik, throw the ball downfield. And guys are just wide open. So it was one of those anomalies. Malik Willis is in a terrible spot. The line in Green Bay wasn't good. This line is a tick down. It's not terrible, but it's a tick down for sure. but then gutting the receiver room. And what are they going to get in the draft? All right, great. There's some good players. They might take 2 in the first round. They might, but are you really going to hitch your wagon to Malik Willis with a couple of players breaking in with a quarterback who's learning the position himself? And he still is. And anyway, we love Willis for running, but what our defense is going to do? If I'm playing the Dolphins, it's really simple. I might put 9 men up. I might put 9 men in the box. Who's beating me deep? I put my corner on the outside. Who is beating me deep? And now if I got 9 guys, where is Achane running? Where is Willis running? Because they're going to have more bodies than can be blocked. I am very pessimistic. Now, I don't know if there's a miracle draft scenario that comes up or some miracle trade, which I don't see coming because this team is in rebuild mode. But right now, as much as I thought Malik Willis would be a top 10 fantasy, and remember, I always say Tim Tebow was a QB1, but the cupboard is so bare here.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah. It's a little bit incomplete for the Dolphins because we got to see what they do with the picks. But you're right. Like, what does that look like? Everyone says this is a bad draft class, right? So, like, what is it actually? There is hope a little bit for each Willis and Achane because of volume in a way.
Right.
Willis, if he runs enough, he can still get there for fantasy. His price has been coming up in best ball drafts to the point where now we're starting to draft him closer to his ceiling than we were before. So it's not as attractive as it was. And like you said, that offense is bare. So, even with the rushing, how high is the fantasy scoring? I mean, QBs need to be able to keep the offense on the field, complete passes, keep the offense moving, getting to scoring position. Rushing is fine, but if they're not able to continuously do that, the offense isn't going anywhere. They won't actually score high-end fantasy points. Devon Achane, if he's catching enough passes, he'll be fine. But again, how often are they getting into scoring position? How many touchdowns are available to Achane? I don't know. It's rough. I like, they're talented players that I have some hope for because of their skill sets, but this Miami offense does not breed any sort of confidence. It's tough.
Wyatt, before this whole thing with Malik Willis, we were probably looking at Achane maybe as a running back 4 or 5 this year. We were maybe having that high. We should have. But now, with similar options in the first round of a redraft league, and obviously in Dynasty for 1 year, this is going to be problematic. You're right. He's still going to be very good. But is he going to be worth the price we're paying for him good? And that's what I worry about. Even if he catches passes, he was able to make something out of nothing. But the nothing is less than the nothing he had last year. And at some point, there are a lot of backs getting the volume. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's, the elephant in the room, I think, too, with Achane is that, there's a possible holdout happening here for him, with some reports of him not coming to the voluntary workouts. And, there's some tough stuff here going on in general. I mean, the prices for Achane, he's always going to be up there at the top of Dynasty, right? Like, it's going to be, if you want to be in the business, it's going to be tough to acquire. If you want to get out, you can actually probably get a decent price. I don't know if I would, just because he's so talented.
Right.
Willis in Dynasty, I actually think the price is like somewhat approachable. We're looking at like low end QB2, maybe just outside of that. And that's like a fine price to pay to see if you can catch lightning in a bottle there. But again, like, what's the outlook? Because it's tough. It's a risky outlook right now. All right. Another team, the Steelers. Who's going to be their QB? Aaron Rodgers? Is it Will Howard? Is it going to be a rookie this year? Could it be Ty Simpson? I've seen that linked a few times. I actually think that's an interesting one. I don't like Ty Simpson, but I think franchises who don't have a franchise QB should probably just keep throwing darts at QBs until they find one. Who do you think is going to be their QB?
So Mike McCarthy takes a coaching job, and part of me says, okay, he would have taken any job he could get. Maybe that's true. But I have to think that he had some talk with Aaron Rodgers. He had to. And there has to be like a 90% certain agreement under the table that Rodgers is coming back. Because McCarthy's not worried about legacy right now. He's not worried about that. But does he really want to step into this job and maybe not get another one? Not that he's on firm ground for that down in the future anyway. I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. I just think there has to be some agreement in place. Otherwise, man, that whole roster had been built for Arthur Smith's 2 and 3 tight end looks, 2 running backs on the field looks. And I know they brought in Michael Pittman, so that certainly gives them a possession receiver. But man, are they gonna be able to push the ball deep to DK? They couldn't last year, except for when the Ravens decided to play single coverage on them. Don't really get that too much, but it's I don't know. It has to be Aaron Rodgers, and if it isn't, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do for fantasy because Will Howard, good luck with that. Ty Simpson, maybe in year 2 he'd become something, but the line's not great either, so there's gonna be pressure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's Aaron Rodgers. I don't think McCarthy comes here to see through a rebuild. So I do think it's to be Aaron Rodgers. We're probably just not going to find out until, I don't know, at least another month or so that it's happening. He's not coming to training camp. He's hanging out until he can just come play. So I'm with you. I think that's what's going to happen. But so let's live in the world where it is Aaron Rodgers coming back. What do you think that means for DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman? I mean, those are the main receivers we're worried about there. We saw a little bit of DK Metcalf with Aaron Rodgers last year, and it worked better than I thought it would. If I'm being honest, they kind of turned DK Metcalf into more of like an after the catch wide receiver, which he's fine at. And I don't know if it's necessarily his strength, but he was fine at it. Michael Pittman is a solid NFL possession wide receiver who could definitely help contribute for the team. Are we interested in them?
So what Rodgers had working last year, I just mentioned a moment ago, they use ultra heavy personnel. So occasionally there was a little time to get the ball intermediate to DK Metcalf. But I've said this for 2 years now. Aaron Rodgers does not want to get hit. He turtles up as soon as pressure comes. So It's all about getting out fast. Kenny Gainwell, 73 catches. Well, guess what? That's Aaron Rodgers not wanting to get hit and not having a possession. He had no possession receiver. Well, it was at Darnell Washington, 290, 340 pounds, whatever we're going to list them at these days. So Michael Pittman is going to eat because Rodgers will get the ball out as fast as humanly possible. Pittman is a big-bodied receiver, and with the way the nature of zone defenses, Pittman will give Rodgers a window to throw into. The yards may not be great. The yards after the catch may not be much, but there is a world where Michael Pittman is seeing 140 targets. And it sounds like it's a joke, but the way Rodgers wants to get the ball out of his hand, Metcalf's a loser here. He was the only game in town from the wide receiver perspective last year. So he was getting, and Rodgers was missing him a ton. They're not going to work well together. It's just another year of Rodgers getting it out even faster. It's going to be a Metcalf. Really, you mentioned it correctly. The numbers were overall good. The first 5 games were really good at Metcalf. And then as it went in, it was a train wreck. Other than that, again, I mentioned that Baltimore game late in the season where they just played single man on him and Rodgers chucked it up. I think they hit 3 long passes in that game. I'm worried for Metcalf, and I love Metcalf. I think Pat Freiermuth, I think it now. I don't know how they're going to split the snaps of him and Darnell Washington, but I think they're going to have to go 2 tight end sets. I don't think they even have a third receiver right now they can use. And McCarthy likes 3 receivers. I think protecting Rodgers is point 1. So I think tight end 20-ish. Freiermuth could get to that. If that moves the needle in tight end premium, that might be worth it. The running game's interesting because, they got Dowdle and they have Jalen Warren. And I think with Pittman, and even if Freiermuth gets more work, I don't think we're seeing 70 passes to the running back again. So, and Warren, this split is tougher because Dowdle, he fizzled as the season went on, but he's a legitimate threat to carries. So I think both of these backs cannibalize each other a bit.
Yeah, I am with you that Michael Pittman hurts DK Metcalf, but dare I say I'm kind of interested in both in Dynasty because their prices I think are actually all right. You look across, DK Metcalf is like borderline wide receiver 3 moving into wide receiver 4 territory. Michael Pittman's in the wide receiver 40s like everywhere you look. I mean, those are decent prices for some who I think are talented players at a minimum and could provide some fantasy value. So I think those are interesting, possible buy lows because of this uncertainty in the Steelers country. The running backs I think are really interesting because we saw them turn Jalen Warren into their main rusher, where he was that kind of like third down back plus before. They changed it up with Kenneth Gainwell in town. Now they got Rico Dowdle, who's obviously more a runner than he is a receiver. Both can do both things, but do they kind of switch that back now where Rico Dowdle's that main guy on first and second down, Jalen Waddle's that third down back. Plus, again, I think you're right that they do kind of cannibalize each other. It's how many opportunities do they give to the backfield in total over the season? Is it like last year? Because last year, Gainwell and Warren were able to work together. But that was also on a team with only ZK Metcalf at wide receiver, like we were talking about. So they needed the running backs to have a lot of touches. Maybe they don't have to do that this year. So that'll be interesting to watch. The tight ends, I don't know if it's Pat Freiermuth or Darnell Washington that I think is actually going to come out on top of that battle at this point. So that's leaving me kind of uninterested in drafting or acquiring either of them right now, just because I think it could be split between them, and like splitting up tight ends, we're not going to get real production out of that.
Wyatt, Pittsburgh wins the division last year. Thank you, Tyler Loop, for hooking that field goal at the end of week 18. But Pittsburgh gets a first place schedule. And that defense, I don't know how much longer these old dudes can hold up. Highsmith and Watt, and I'm missing a third one in there. And they are just inches away from that defense falling down the toilet. And I'm very concerned about that. And if that should happen between the first place schedule and a slippage in the defense, and if this team has negative game script, it worries me for the running backs. That day is coming. And Mike Tomlin was very good at always keeping them competitive.
Yeah.
I don't have the same respect for Mike McCarthy.
It's a very, very good point. Last player of the day, Fernando Mendoza. Is he going to be sitting during his rookie year? The Raiders are almost certainly drafting him. I mean, it's all but written in stone at this point. Clint Kubiak has been quoted as saying he thinks it's best for a rookie QB to sit. And then the Raiders went and signed Kirk Cousins. I believe Tom Brady has even mentioned that he thinks it's better for a QB to sit and learn a little bit. When are we going to see Mendoza? What do you think?
Here's the problem. Clint Kubiak a couple of years ago coached in New Orleans, and before the injuries, remember Derek Carr had those two insane games. One was against Dallas, but it was insane. Well, it was Clint Kubiak. It was boot action, rollouts, play action, deep shots, and it worked great. And then injuries hit New Orleans, and that fell. And then Sam Darnold. And I know Darnold had that good season in Minnesota, but it was more of the same for a lot of last year. Just not as great because Darnold had his limitations. So now we go to Las Vegas. Can Kirk Cousins run a rollout? Can Kirk Cousins run a bootleg? Because I don't think he can. But Tom Brady's smarter than I am, and I know he's part of the decision-making process with Kubiak. So if they want to run Kubiak's offense, it's not a drop-back passer. And who are their receivers? Dante Thornton, Jack Besh, Jalen Naylor. I'm leaving out one other superstar legend in that group as well. I'm sorry, the fourth one evades me for the second. But I know they have Bowers, and I know they have Gentin. I know they brought Linderbaum in to block at center, which is beautiful. Left tackle Colton Miller back from injury. That's huge. But at the end of the day, are they really going to put Kirk Cousins under center and not run boot action and rollouts? Because I don't think he could do it. So, look, if he gets to start Kirk Cousins, it can't be long. Kubiak cannot run his offense with Cousins. Cousins can still pass the ball a little bit. I don't know what they were doing. They're smarter than I am. I think Mendoza, worst case scenario, and obviously we don't have a schedule yet, week 5.
Yeah, I think no matter what's actually going to happen, signing Kirk Cousins was good business. It's nice to have the veteran QB in the room for Mendoza, no matter what they're planning. I can't see Mendoza sitting for that long. Like, even if Kirk Cousins is their opening day starter, I just can't see it lasting more than a couple days. Number 1 overall pick in today's game, and he's not like some raw prospect. Like one of the great aspects of Mendoza is that he's like ready to play. I would say, there are some conversations about, he didn't do enough outside of structure or having to really read full reads on the defense because it was too much RPO and screens and stuff like that. But I also think this is a QB who was making those decisions very, very quickly. I think he is somebody who's going to come in, and that was the offense he was in. Like, he's going to come to this offense and learn that offense, and perform that off. So I just can't see him sitting very long. It's non-news to me. It's not coming into my analysis at all when it comes to Fernando Mendoza. When I'm thinking about where he's valued, like, it doesn't affect me at all here.
And Wyatt, a quick laugh with this. Yes, maybe Mendoza can't really read defenses. You think Sam Darnold and Derek Carr could? Because maybe it's fine. Right? I mean, what are we talking about, right? I'm with you on this.
Exactly. Yeah. You think Clint Kubiak is going to have him making full field reads right away? Like, no, he's going to be setting up these RPOs and play actions for him to shorten the field, to make the decisions easy for him. I mean, that's why, like, there's reason to be excited for Mendoza. Like, I think Clint Kubiak is awesome to have around for Fernando Mendoza. I think he can fit that offense really well. You know, I think we should be excited for him. I know a lot of people look at Mendoza and say, like, well, the ceiling's not really high. He's not much of a runner. You know, he's more of a, you know, the low ceiling quarterback, you know, high floor. He can do, you know, not elite arm, like good enough. You know, I really think that this is a really good QB prospect. I mean, he's got all the physical tools, in my opinion. I think he's underrated as a rusher. He showed that he can do it. He's much bigger than I think people realize. He came in at like 236 when he weighed in at the combine, and he's solid. Like, he's got power to run. He's got a good enough arm, and he's really, really accurate, which you cannot really teach. I think he's gonna be good in the NFL. Like, I think we could be looking at someone who's like at least a fringe QB1 sooner rather than later. I'm excited to draft Fernando Mendoza.
And on a side note, and I know everybody loves Ashton Genty, and so his value is super high anyway, but oh my goodness, he was better than the numbers last year. He just had no blocking. They had no passing game. But I'm telling you, I don't know if Jackson Powers Johnson is going to be good, but he was injured a lot last year. So maybe if he develops, I already said Colton Miller's back. Linderbaum is a great run blocker. And in that Kubiak system, Linderbaum's going to get out on the move. This is going to be insane for Ashton Genty. Now, they've got to get at least some receiving help, and I imagine they'll do that in the draft. They'll have to get something.
Yeah.
But I am so excited for Genty.
Yeah, it's really exciting for Genty. Just like you mentioned before, the offensive line getting healthy plus the addition of Linderbaum is awesome for him. Everything you look at with Genty, if you can isolate it to only what he did, it's all really good. And when you look at everything that affected things around him, it's all really bad. And then, of course, Brock Bowers. Like, I'm excited for him to come back and have the best QB he's played with. You know, it's gonna be exciting.
So one thing on that, last year I told everybody, pass on Bowers, take Trey McBride. McBride, the prior season, even is from week 5 on, he was actually better than Bowers was in 2024. And I said, you know, McBride was a little cheaper. This year, I'm flipping the script. Bowers will be a half a round cheaper. And I know we're talking in Dynasty, they both have uber value, so we don't worry about that. But if you're in a redraft league, this is the year to go back to Bowers. McBride's going to be great, but the touchdowns were insane. The Cardinals had been 9 negative blowout scripts down the stretch, and their defense was injured badly. Secondary, Walter Nolan. The defense is going to be closer to number 20 than what they were in the second half of last season. McBride is going to be great, but he's not putting up last year's numbers. That one is not happening. So this is the year you pivot back and you take the little discount on Bowers.
I'm with you. I agree totally. Jim, this was fantastic. I really appreciate you joining me. Before we get out of here, remind everyone where to find you, find all your content.
You can catch me on socials at Jim Coventry NFL, doing a lot of video content. As soon as the draft is over, it'll be daily stat of the day, threads of the day, and then everything at RotoWire. You just catch me on the socials, and I'll tell you where I'm at from there.
Love to hear it. On this side of things, you can follow me on Twitter at WyattB_FF. Make sure you've liked and subscribed, and leave a comment if you haven't yet. Sign up to Fast Draft with code Wyatt. Get a $50 deposit match. I appreciate all of you. See you next time.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.